Why, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Mr. Lauren with Reading is Fantastical. Oh, we have a special guest for you today. As you can see, we have the illustrious, the awesome Dr. Michael Borum in the house.
I don't know if those words have ever been associated with my name before.
Well,
Not correctly.
it's in my notes, so I have to read what's in my notes, and that's what it is.
Okay, I won't argue with the notes.
All
How
right.
are you, man?
Well,
Thank you
thank
for having
you.
me.
I'm feeling wonderful. How are you? How's the family doing?
Oh man, all is well, man. All is well. It's good to see you again. We're coming up on our 1 year anniversary for my wife's kidney pancreas
Oh,
transplant. So we are
beautiful.
truly blessed, man.
No
Yes.
doubt about it. No
Yes,
doubt
yes,
about it.
indeed. So very
Excellent.
grateful. God is good.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear. Is there something special you guys are doing to commemorate that, or I just can't let that go by?
Yeah, I'm having to rebudget a whole lot. That's pretty much most.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, her birthday is actually coming up. It's right around the date. Her getting a kidney and a pancreas was like right near her birthday. So it is, monumental, but we decided to celebrate, make sure we celebrate everything, but
Yes.
celebrate it in the way that that person wants to. So she is going to call some plans in on the morning of, and we're just going to
Yes.
do some stuff, just her, I, and my daughter. So we're excited about it. But yeah, man,
Oh,
we're just
beautiful.
loaded with gratitude, man. God is good.
No doubt about it. So thank you once again for being here.
Sure.
Obviously had a chance to speak earlier. We had some good chopping up time. So it's
Oh
almost like,
yeah.
oh man, we should have recorded all of the pre-work, so it was going really a really good flow and everything there. So just
Sure, sure,
perhaps if you wouldn't mind taking a few moments to introduce yourself and perhaps how education has helped to shape who you are and what you do in your role.
sure. All right. Thank you. I do appreciate being on this channel, man. So I'm a new
Yes.
subscriber.
Thank
Definitely be
you.
following you, man, and get my reading hour in. It's been a long time since somebody voluntarily read to.
Awesome. I know. I know.
So the whole experience is nostalgic because we grew up in that generation with LeVar Burton, and man, I
Yes.
used to be plopped
Yes.
down in front of the television watching Reading Rainbow, trying to
Reading
hit them
Rainbow.
notes and
That's right.
everything. I think it was Shaka Khan singing. If I'm not crazy, I felt like
Yeah.
Shaka Khan was singing the intro. So
Yes.
I've been a fan for a long time of literature, but really, my roots go back to those early days watching
Yes.
Reading Rainbow. And
Yes.
I'm a doctor of education. I work in a psych facility as
Mhm.
the director of education, and I'm working on opening other hospitals. We're currently recruiting teachers, looking for teachers
Okay.
who are interested to, come out of the public sector and do something a little bit different. Working in a hospital setting is a very nuanced experience, but it's
Right.
deeply rewarding, deeply challenging in many ways. But the need for real educators is there. So my job is to make sure to facilitate those services and look after the kids for whatever their emotional, mental needs are, or cognitive, academic needs are while they're in our program. So
Okay.
I'm pretty grateful to be able to do what it is we're doing. So,
No doubt. So, well, since you talk about recruiting, hey, let's just use that as an opportunity. What sort of
sure.
educators are you looking for in that space, and
Okay.
what will they be doing that you kind of help to facilitate?
Well, thank you. I appreciate you even saying that. We are looking for special education teachers as well as general education teachers. So I'm opening another program. We're going to be needing people that are in place to help facilitate academic services. What we provide is a credit recovery school and through an
Oh,
online platform
okay.
right here in the Valley within the psych facility. So we're working with kids who are receiving clinical treatment for their
Mhm.
needs. And while they're there, we're doing credit recovery and making sure they stay caught up with their academics or working to recover from some of the time that they may miss. Some of our kids are coming into the program for multiple difficulty or challenges related to mental health, or they were in displacement altogether from school. So we're working with them to get back on track with their academics, and they earn credits within our program. And hopefully, we can help make that transition back into their respective communities a lot easier, or they're leaving with something to show for their time in terms of high school credits as well as junior high school courses.
So this is more inpatient. So they're once they're in,
Definitely.
they're sort of referred to by, I guess, the families or different services is how they come
Mhm.
upon getting into your program.
Yeah, so it's because it's a private placement, so they're there based off of the referrals that come from state placement agencies. Sometimes they come directly through school systems, but mostly, through their insurance programs, their families, things of that nature. Sometimes from Durango detention centers, or they're transitioning from another hospital placement. But the primary need is the clinical aspect. And while they're there, we do the academic portion as well.
Okay. And their age groups typically range from what to what, or?
So we have acute programming now here in Tucson, as well as we're developing here in Chandler. But the
Okay.
inpatient program is primarily about 11 or 12 years old to 17.
Okay.
Any kid turning 18 is considered an adult, so they transition into adult programming or they age out of our program. So it's all adolescents.
Now you mentioned about online as well. So is there a
Yes.
portion of that? How does that work?
So we use an online platform because our kids arrive with various needs. I may have a student who's been out of school for the last 2 years and didn't maybe miss some essential instruction in a certain area, but doesn't necessarily need an IEP at that point.
Okay.
But we may need to go back and reteach some things that they maybe lost confidence in, or
Okay.
struggle with, or a concept they just didn't pick up because at the time they were using, or they're on substance abuse, having substance abuse issues, or transitioning between living conditions and things of that nature. So there's a whole, there's a myriad of conditions and circumstances that would create some difficulty with the learning process. So
Okay.
we have all academic levels. We also can modify our coursework to be appropriate to our kids when they do need individual education plans, or they may have medical things that may need accommodations, and how they go about their schoolwork. But our main thing is to make sure we take care of their need and to provide the type of service that would represent or mostly resemble the services they will receive at the state sector, or at their brick and mortar school or charter program, or wherever they may be coming from.
Gotcha. So how does one get into this space? How did you become the director of this program? Obviously,
Very
there's
prayerfully.
there's a caveat that that we knew each other from a previous
Sure.
hospital and whatnot. So you obviously came
Yes,
up
sir.
through special education in terms of being an educator
Right.
and all that. So tell us about your education and then how you came up to get into this space.
My personal education, I born and raised in Indiana.
Okay.
And my mom is quite the academic. My older
Oh,
brother is the more brilliant child of the
oh,
two.
come on.
So, so I was not allowed to slack at all.
Oh,
You come
yes, I
home with
got
a
it.
B plus, you're like, yeah, I got this B plus. And but in my house, B stands for belt, right? C stands for crying, right? And
I
D,
know
don't
that's
do it
right.
again, right?
Yeah, I know that's right.
So yeah, so the expectations were high.
Yes.
I'm bloviating, but the expectations were very high.
Mhm.
But I was raised in Indiana, but we excuse me, we transitioned to Arizona when I was a junior in high school. That was a really difficult transition,
Right.
and so that wasn't fun for me at all. But
Mhm.
after high school, I went out to Oral Roberts in Oklahoma,
Ooh,
and
wow.
I was a theology major. And so
Interesting.
I realized that, my love for the word of God and teaching the Bible wasn't something that was employable,
Yeah.
first of all. Second of all, it was something I was going to do regardless. So I
Yes.
learned to, don't utilize those formative years in college to do something you're going to do naturally. And
Right.
so I moved into psychology. And then from there, coming back to Arizona, there was a need at a school. I was signed up as a parapro because I just needed a job, right out of
Mhm.
college, and met with the principal. She's like, "Have you ever thought about teaching?" I was like, "No," and that was 20 years ago. So I
Yes,
started
yes.
teaching. I ended up getting my master's in education. I finished my master's the same year I got married to my beautiful wife, who
Oh,
is also the more intelligent of the two of us. So I keep playing this
good answer.
role
Good
of
answer.
the
This is all
lesser.
recorded too. So
Okay,
we
you
got
got another
receipts.
thing. Okay, yes, please make sure you play that back slowly, right? So I finished my master's, and then several years later, I was I was working mostly as an advocate in education. And I just got this strong urge, so I prayed. I was like, I want to go back to school and finish my doctorate, and
Right.
it actually turned out to be the exact thing I needed to do that
Good.
led me to the position I'm in now as a director of education in the psych facility. So, as I was saying to you earlier, God leads non-obviously. I've never really
Ooh,
had a direct
that's the
plan to
word.
go into
You got
education.
to say that again for the
Yeah.
folks in the back. I've stole that from the. So what was that? So God leads.
God
non
leads
obviously.
non-obviously,
I
but
love
he
that.
leads indeed, right?
Indeed.
So learning how to be able to uh, trust what God has invested in your heart. It's not your heart that's leading you, right? People say, "Oh, follow your heart." I do not tell people to follow your heart. The heart can be deceitfully wicked, right? You can go.
Ooh.
Your heart
Yeah.
could be amicable to so many things that may not be a good thing for you.
Yes.
But God can invest things in your heart, and sometimes there's a tugging to do things that doesn't necessarily make sense. But
Right.
then you realize that it was the leading of the Lord all the way. And
Okay.
then once you find yourself settled in something, you look back and say, man, it's miraculous that I'm here. And it totally makes sense with all the things that I've gone through to come to a position that just it helps. You didn't have the rationale, but you have the results.
Right.
That type of thing. And I would say that that's kind of been my career all the way. So I'm
Yeah.
here at 20 years in education, the last eight
Awesome.
years as a director of a
Yeah.
program. But
Yeah.
my first love was working with students with special needs who had emotional deficit, disturbance, emotional disability. And I worked with kindergarten all the way up through high school. I was blessed to be able to teach all grade levels at some point in my career because I
Wow.
had blended classrooms. So I was always working with a kid from a different level.
I see.
But, my first love was just direct instruction, teaching
Yep.
kids. When I was young and slim and can run and chase them
Ah,
around and
you say
do all
young and
those
slave.
things. Yeah, yeah, yes. Those years were so
Mhm.
much fun for me,
Mhm.
and I was always kind of just kind of cognizant that you represent something different. You don't always see large black males teaching
Oh,
kids in primary, so it
right.
was a super exciting experience. And now some of my kids I had as kindergartners, they call or text and say, hey, this is my second born child. I'm like, man, how old am I? You know what I'm
Come
saying? Is
on
that
now. That's right.
so? But
That's right.
it's a great experience to to get to hear back from kids. They say,
Yes.
man, you really touched my life. You're my favorite teacher. That thing is awesome. And
Oh,
one of my
that's
favorite
great.
students is a teacher now. So man, that those are rewards you really can't really can't quantify
Yeah.
how blessed you are to feel that to
Yes.
have that experience.
Well,
Yeah.
take a bow, Dr. Borum. So in terms of your
Ah,
belief system, do you feel because you come across many different people from different backgrounds,
yes,
has
sir.
that been an issue in terms of your belief system? And obviously not, I'm going to just probably say that, but has that become an issue perhaps with some people saying, hey, you believe this, but I don't believe that? And so how do you
Sure.
work that whole dynamic?
Yeah, that's actually never happened
Hmm.
in my years as an
Yeah.
educator,
Okay.
or in my years when I'm trying to provide treatment and support, because I'm never in a position where I'm trying to push an agenda related to my belief system.
Gotcha.
I'm always trying to understand
Mm.
what the belief system is of the person that I'm there to serve and take care of or look
Right.
after or work with.
Right.
So it's never the agenda for me to try to coach a person to believe one way or another. I'm often working with them to understand who they are as a person, understand what they believe. Number one, as I was saying before, I think we were talking earlier. I was saying that as an educator, the one of the greatest skills you have is to be a lifelong learner.
Lifelong
So
learning. Yeah.
you working with an individual, you have to learn who they are. You have
Yeah.
to have love, empathy, and compassion for them before you can even teach anything. And it's never my approach to try to convince someone to think or believe the way I believe.
Yeah.
My goal is to help them to come to healthy conclusions of their own and to challenge their beliefs. Most of it is asking the appropriate questions to help them maybe reconsider what it is they're thinking and believing, how they're acting on those beliefs. Are those beliefs rational? Are they
Mm.
fair?
Right.
Is what you think about yourself fair, or is this the product of your personal trauma or some of the difficulties you had as a child, or the way that you believe about yourself? Is it actually accurate
Yeah.
to take that position? So my goal is really I'm not trying to recreate my own experience at all. I'm just helping individuals with their own experience and trying to help them come to a more healthy understanding of their capability and their the part of them that is maybe at a place of repair,
Okay.
to identify the part of them that is thriving and maybe the part that's in a place of deficit, or maybe they're disintegrating in that particular area. They could be moving forward and maybe they're not doing as well as what they maybe they could possibly do during that time period. When we're talking about adolescence, You have
Right.
a myriad of conditions and situations,
Sure.
circumstances, histories, and the way you approach it is you have to allow that person the space to convey to you what's happening in internally. And so that's not easily done. It's not done quickly at all.
Right. Right.
It's a process of trust building, rapport, and helping them to come to their own conclusions in a way that will be beneficial and not self-destructive, if I can
So
say it like that.
it sounds like a pretty interesting program in terms of does it fall underneath a certain school district or how does it work in terms of because I think of, in a hospital education director, I'm thinking, some of the governing body, the LCME, ACGME, or how is it different
Mm-hmm.
from perhaps training environment like at some of our training school hospitals that are
Sure.
here versus your program?
Sure, that's a good question. So, the best way I would kind of explain it is that we are a program, we're an auxiliary within a program. The
Okay.
program that we're in is a clinical facility
Okay.
for mental health treatment and
Okay.
recovery.
Recovery.
The
Okay.
majority of my kids coming into our program have some form of a history of substance abuse. I've had
Mm,
students as young as 11 and 12, 13, 14 struggle with all the major issues that we know today to be almost to an epidemic in our society.
I see.
So coming in, a lot of our kids are struggling with some major difficulties. Alcoholism, marijuana, fentanyl is a huge problem
Yeah.
at this time period. So it is a recovery school, and the method of what we're doing is we create a grace model around our kids'
Grace model.
behavior.
Okay.
So let's say you have a difficult day and you act out with aggression. We're not here to punish you. We're here to help you
Yes.
reconcile what's happening in the heart before you can do anything about the behavior. So
Right.
it's that type of process. And we're an auxiliary within that type of facility. So we're providing school services. So we're not a standalone program, but we are independent of any school district. But we function under a voucher system. So we're doing a service that our schools can't provide because they need the psych and therapeutic help at that time of intervention. So we exist within the hospital to make sure our kids keep moving forward, and we
Okay.
provide comparative services that you would see at your brick and mortar high school or at the public sector.
So do you also have to work with the gaining student once they've kind of, I guess, matriculated or graduated from your program back into the regular school system? And do you want to work with the
Sure.
gaining district, school in terms of
Yeah.
here's our records and this is what they've accomplished and here you go? And do you have some
Yes.
sort of interaction once they kind of moved or
Absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely. So when they come into our program, we do a review of existing data to find out what's happening, to see if we need to add services. That could be IEP, 504 services,
I
or
see.
it could just be communicating with the school what their clinical need is. So they're prepared to receive them once it's time for them to return. But we do those transitional meetings. I do a lot of charting, and I'm writing reports related to their clinical care to
Mhm.
advocate for their needs going back to their school systems. They can actually graduate from our school. We have
Oh,
had kids graduate, but mostly it's transitioning back to their respective communities and then finishing at the school where they were before. Some kids are transitioning into behavioral health group homes, so they may enter a new district, and we help with that transition. We provide transcripts and withdrawal forms just like any other school, as
I
well
see.
as data that may be related to their clinical need, because the intervention we provide may just be a temporary circumstance, but the schools need to be made aware. So we advocate for our kids in that regard on how they can provide intervention support, prevention from what may happen or may have been an issue from the past.
Okay. So is there an average amount of time that they're in your program or it just
Not necessarily.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, not necessarily. Well, we have an inpatient facility, then we have an acute stay. So acute is
Ah, okay.
it's a more we do a lot of the services in brevity, but in the inpatient facility, kids can be there as long as they're needed to be there. Now we're
Okay.
really careful not to keep them a day longer because we don't want them going backwards, and it can be, there's high restrictions there. They don't have access to the music they used to listen to. There's no internet access and things like
Okay.
that. So when they get back to a emotional, mental, or cognitive baseline, we want to help them transition back successfully into their community, but we definitely don't want them staying any longer than they have to. But there's been huge changes and services in Arizona, so sometimes it's difficult to get that transition set up because there's some limited resources at times for different kids based on the placement agency or the severity of their needs.
So what can the parents of the kids do to support their kids while they're in your program? What can they do?
That's a good question because some of our kids are are not operating within their traditional family units.
I see.
But what I would say, and what we do is try to normalize mental health services. We
Right.
don't want it to be taboo. We don't
Yeah.
want our kids being embarrassed. We want them to be selective about what they say and what they share, especially with their peers, especially in an academic setting. But we want them to learn to advocate for themselves, and sometimes that starts with helping our parents to know how to advocate for their children
Right.
and how to reach them. Sometimes our parents need them in a facility because they don't know what to do with the situations that they're facing. So it's difficult, and sometimes they really are can be the way they go about working with their kid can be pretty problematic related to their needs for recovery. So sometimes it is a family reunification process or some coaching to our families. But the way I put it is that we want our families to learn how to normalize things that are happening related to mental health services. Uh, it shouldn't be a scary process.
Okay.
We teach, as we were said before, if your heart breaks down, you need cardiac support, medical intervention. If
Right.
your pancreas breaks down, right, you're going to need support for diabetic conditions related to that particular organ. Your kidneys, if you're in renal failure, you're going to need supplements in order to be able to survive that type of difficulty. But when the brain starts to break down, we 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 get kind of strange in dealing with issues related to how we're processing things mentally.
Yeah.
But the brain is an organ, and if you don't have the right nutrients, if you can have hereditary issues, you can have developmental blocks, you can have injuries that can impact how you're engaging with normal everyday things. So if we learn to help support our kids when they're going through difficulty, it empowers them to begin to either learn how to cope, recover, or get the right recommendations that they may need. Even medical support in terms of medications is necessary. It's a physical organ that can
Right.
be impacted. Mental health can be emotional, spiritual, psychological. It can be hereditary. It
Yeah.
could be spirit. I don't know if I said spiritual. Maybe I need to say it twice
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that's one area that's often overlooked. But it could
Yes.
be so many different things, and we want to address a problem with the right tools. You don't
Yes.
open up if your car, you get a check engine light. You don't open the hood of your car with a hammer and start tapping on stuff. I hope you don't. I
Right.
mean, unless you got a really good warranty, I hope you're
Right.
not doing that.
Right.
Right? There's specialty tools for
Yeah.
treatment, and that's the same thing that we're doing in behavioral health. There are specialty tools. We got to find out what is the root cause analysis of what's happening with a
Yeah.
particular kid because every human is different,
Right.
and you cannot get comfortable and familiar with what this process looks like. You have to be ready and informed and open to the variations in every person's case. So we look for the right tools to find out what the problem is, and then we may need a specialty toolkit in order to repair.
Yes.
And our repair may be partial at this placement. We may make a 10% uh, uh, progression, but it's going in the right direction. So that's
Right.
kind of how we approach mental health. And in the meantime, our kids, what they most of the time do normal is their academics. So it's often a nice free breakaway. They're in an online class. Their class is individualized.
Oh, I
It's
see.
exactly what they need. We have electives, everything from Bible courses to
Yeah.
forensic science. So they get to kind of
Interesting.
get a getaway, yeah,
Okay.
and have some control over their education, as well as do those core courses that they may be missing out on because they're
Okay.
impatient with us.
Okay. So what sort of play type of situation you have where they just get out, you encourage them to get out and maybe to play or some sort of sport thing, or is it more
Sure.
academic based, or how does that work?
Well, some of our kids have elopement issues, so we don't say get out a whole lot because they're
Of
skilled
course.
at getting out.
Right, right.
One brother, he scaled a chain link fence like Spider-Man. I was like, bro, you need a sports agent, not inpatient services. Get this man on American Ninja Warrior because that would be
Right,
great.
right.
So,
Where you climb up that
so
fence. Okay.
Yeah, so our
I
kids, they
got you.
get PE, they get rec therapy.
Okay. Rec
We're
therapy.
running
Okay.
chess club periodically. I love the chess
Ooh,
club.
okay.
Chess club is a whole lot of fun with our kids. You get to show them different setups and show them how, your association and how you move
Yeah.
impacts the decisions you get to make
How
for the
about that?
rest of your life. So
Yeah.
we use things like chess analogies,
Yeah.
castling, and things to talk about real life issues,
Ooh.
pawn structure to talk
Yeah.
about building on your future, setting yourself up to win, being defensive and knowing when you're under attack or when you're being pursued, and so many different concepts can come out of things like that. But
Sure.
uh, early on, we were able to do a book club, and I had some really good memories about doing book club with our kids. And we try to introduce those services as much as we can, but it's such a behavioral based program.
Right.
Sometimes the behavior dictates the freedom we can have to do some of the fun stuff, but
Yeah.
we always promoting the fundamentals, the normal things that should be associated with a kid's life. And that's how you think, how you believe, how you rest, what you're engaged in. Is it appropriate? Is it necessary? Because not everything is for everybody. That's
No
what
doubt
I
about it. No
often tell
doubt
my
about it.
kids. Yeah, yeah,
Well, good deal. Well, I'm gonna step on some toes real quick.
sure.
Okay. Now, with the social media, how has that impacted your program? Has that been, negative, positive? Because obviously one of the reasons why I started this channel is because to give kids a lot of times an alternative, or the parents perhaps an alternative to just sitting games in front of the kids and that being the babysitter. So just getting back to old school, we talked
Right. It
earlier
can
about just
happen.
reading to the kids, having an opportunity, at least having it as an option for them. So in terms of
Sure.
social media, has that been a struggle? Has that been a tough thing for the kids, or has that been negative or positive? What are your thoughts as a director?
Okay, so you want me as a director or as a dad?
Oh, okay. Let's approach the dad part first because we haven't
Yeah.
spoke to that, and then we can like the director part. Okay.
Okay, okay. You can't be built like a brown bear and not have some brown bear dad,
Ooh, I know that's
energy
right.
here.
Gotta growl a little bit
So
in, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I am, man. Listen, social media has systemically impacted the minds of our youth and adults in such a negative capacity, and it's gone so far that it's not even measurable how
Right.
much damage that it's done on the human psyche. The
Okay.
brain is not meant to be ultimately stimulated 24/7.
Right.
It's not. And our algorithms are designed to glean your attention and to harvest attention. Advertising and attention is like the new currency in our country. It's such a problem for our kids that I can tell you for a fact, even though I don't have the research to support it, that our kids, when they come in, especially if they have issues with substance abuse, it's as difficult for them to detox from substance abuse as it is to detox from social media. It's the
Wow.
same type of symptoms:
Right.
withdrawals, mood disorder, depression, restlessness, anxiety,
Right.
insomnia. It's the same type of experience. And
Yeah.
my wife is a therapist. She's probably one of the best therapists in the valley. But
Awesome.
she often talks about some of the clients she had and what she believed has happened to how they process information, just because the form in which they receive information through social media is very unnatural. To
Right.
receive auditory, visual, color, light stimulation constantly, and then to sit down and ask them to engage directly for 40 minutes is almost impossible. It's
Right.
the weirdest thing in the world. And I definitely was a kid with ADHD.
Yeah.
Before there was the internet, we had books. It was
Right.
reading. That was
Yes.
our internet. Man, if I wanted to explore another world, I would go to a different section in the library. Man,
Yeah.
remember I remember what the card catalog smelled like, because it smelled
Come
like
on
mildew.
now.
But you know what I'm saying? You
You had to
can
sign out
pull
the
out
little,
that
put the
roll.
data.
Hey man, and I can look and see, hey, which one of these brothers didn't return this book on time? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it was
That's
that was
right.
that was that was reality for us. And you know what? The funny thing is that I feel the same way in terms of my profession.
Yeah.
So our kids don't have any access to social media. They don't have access. The music is another thing. What they're constantly playing in their ear is a programming of the mind and can
Yeah.
set a mood and they not even be aware of. Music can transfer from one portion of your brain to the other without your awareness. So you could
Okay.
be shopping and now you walk and singing a Katy Perry song, and you don't even have Katy Perry in your playlist.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Right.
Right.
You looking for tomato soup and you singing whatever jam is on in the in the grocery store because it passes between those that between your brain, both
Hmm.
sides of the brain without your permission because
Right.
music is processed both logically as well as creatively. So it can be very dangerous for kids if we're not monitoring what they're listening
Sure.
to. But that process of them detoxing and coming down of it helps their mood altogether. Eventually, they learn to live without it. They become a little more self-controlled, is what I will say, without having access to those things. And
Yeah.
then they start to divert their attention to something that does matter, like their geometry class. They're actually all into it
Yeah.
because that's the highest form of stimulation with of indirect engagement from human interaction. So they really enjoy being online and actually being able to work. But the social media, the music, all that stuff is difficult for them
Yeah.
to come down off of that. It's
Right.
definitely a problem. As a dad, I would only put learning games on my kid's tablet. So she would, if she was on the tablet, she thought she was just playing games, but they're always learning games,
Right.
multiplication
Right.
games, reading games, activities. So it was all learning tools. And I
Yeah.
had to pay a couple bucks for it, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so even, I have a kid who uses her cell phone, but she's a bookworm as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
she has like a decent balance with that.
Good.
But it impacts the attention span mostly.
Yeah.
And then it depends on what it is that they're engaged in because our kids are getting exposed to things that are not appropriate or helpful for the mind at a certain age.
Right.
I have kids who are contending with belief systems, and I have to tell them, like, is it even time for you to make
Yeah.
decisions related to that? You're only 15 years old, and they haven't considered it, but they've gotten access to the information because of what they viewed on social media. So,
Right.
yeah, there's an unplugging, like the matrix, that we have to do
Yes.
with our kids. It's hard at first. We want to
Yeah.
get back in that matrix. It's warm and comfortable in there, but now we got to unplug and kind of get back to a natural baseline.
Well,
So,
speaking of unplug, what does Dr. Borum do to unplug, to kind of come down after having a hard day at work? You're traveling here and there. You said Tucson's in the mix in terms of a
sure.
location and whatnot. So what does
Yeah,
Dr. Borum do to kind of keep it down and be able to sustain this long journey that you're on, or this educational journey that you're on?
sure. That's an excellent question. Uh, so I'm a tinkerer. I'll say that
Ah,
for sure.
tinkerer. Okay.
So first, before I can do my leisurely thing, I got to fix stuff my wife and my daughter that broke around the house. So I get to get my tools out
You
and
gotta earn
fix
your
things.
keep in the house, buddy.
you know,
You
what's
don't
funny?
work, you don't eat. You know what I mean?
Oh man, you got to fix this place up first before you get to play, right? But my older brother, who is my best friend, my older brother is my guy. He's an engineer,
Okay.
super bright dude. And I remember that growing up we were poor,
Right.
and
Right.
if something broke down, my mom was like, Jay, come in here, fix the thing. And I was his like, tool guy, hand him the tool,
Hmm.
watch him
Right.
fix stuff. But you want to watch TV, you gonna get in there and take that big
Hey,
back off the
pick the,
side of it,
that's it. That's it. Pick the rabbit ears or
sweep the
something,
dust out of it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Splice some wires, reset them, and stuff like that. So we had to learn to do so many things about survival. So even now, like I do stuff like that to this day.
Mhm.
I do like Jordan restorations. I'm an artist by
Oh,
trade.
nice.
So
Okay.
I do Jordan restorations. I do custom
Jordan restoration.
sneakers. I'm
Okay.
painting all the time. I do oil paint, portraits. I
Okay.
do. I paint in one of the styles of my favorite artists from the Harlem Renaissance
Oh,
record
nice.
his
You went
paintings, so
deep.
I do my own. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I do a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm a drummer. I love to
Okay.
drum. My wife and my daughter play instruments, so we jam every now and then.
Okay.
Till the
Okay.
neighbors come knocking, stuff like that. So, but
Well,
man, but reading, man, I have a really nice library.
okay.
I love to read. I'm in the process of finishing my first book, which will be the second installment on my first series.
Yes.
So I'm pretty excited about that. It started off as a therapeutic process for
Okay.
me
Right.
to give myself a place of fantasy to create a
Yes.
world that only exists in my mind and to be able to develop characters and to watch character development, to create conflict, and to create a space that, for me, reading can create spaces that you can live in. That's a
Yes.
healthy space to be able to live in, and honestly, to be able to, first of all, growing up, my mom was a bookworm. She
Hmm.
was the avid reader in her family, so her boys was the same thing. We had
Right.
stacks of books from stuff related to programming, math, and things like that. We got
Wow.
our stuff from the thrift store, so we bought
Yeah.
whatever they gave us, right?
Oh,
So it was
wow.
that
Like
type
little
of
hidden
thing.
figures
So
or something in there,
yeah,
getting books. Yeah.
something like that, right?
Right.
But my brother much more the one you want to do the calculations.
Right.
So the situation for us kind of growing up is that I learned to see the world from a different perspective by
Right.
reading excellent authors.
Yes.
And I just passed to my daughter The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas.
Wow.
You
Yeah,
know that
yeah,
joint
yeah.
like this thick. You know
Yeah,
what
my
I'm
daughter had to
saying?
read that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, now you get to enter the world of someone and watch how they create
Yeah.
the world that you're reading from. And so, growing up, my mom was a minister, so she
Wow.
taught
Okay.
me the Word of God. She taught me the Bible, but she
Yes.
didn't just teach it to me. She taught me to see the difference between history, to see the difference between poetry, to understand when the Bible's using analogies, when it's
Wow.
using apocalyptic language or prophecy,
Yeah.
to be able to see the error in man through the stories, see the
Yes.
consistency of God through the stories, and
Hmm.
to where for me, she made sure that in how I read the Bible, it wasn't Bible stories. She
Yes.
was showing me that, Christ is not paradoxical. He's the real Samson. He's the strong one in the
Yes.
story of our
Yes.
lives. He's the Moses who's leading us out of the proverbial desert
Yes.
into a better place. He's the rock as well where the water comes from. That's how she taught the word of God to me. He's the real Jonah. He really went into the belly of the earth for 3 days.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So understanding in this one book, I had all these different methods of communication, all
Yeah.
these different authors writing from different perspectives, yet a consistent message all the way through. That's what opened my mind
Yeah.
essentially. And I was teaching Bible study like in the fifth grade in my school.
Wow.
I don't know how good it was. I can't tell you
Yeah,
how
yeah.
good it
That's
was,
cool. That's deep.
but
Yeah.
but that was kind of where my start was, and I had stacks of books in my room, so I had to not only understand the position of faith I had, but I had to understand what people believe from the Quran. I
Yeah.
had to understand what people believe from Judaism and how they represented themselves and how they practice,
Yeah.
because reading was a way of seeing the world through another person's perspective.
Sure.
And it's not a hostile practice,
Right.
it's an informative practice. It's
Yes.
an opportunity to see something from a totally different
Yeah.
view. So being poor was to our advantage because we would go to the library every weekend
Be
to get a
creative.
stack of books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a stack of books. I would always get a how to draw book.
Yeah.
I would always rent the Wiz on the VHS. That was my
Ah,
jam, right?
right. Right. Right.
Rent the Wiz, and I would get different books in different categories, and I just remember, just it felt like I that was my internet.
Yeah.
That was my world wide web. There was
Right.
so much stuff to learn from. And we would stay there for hours because, when you poor, you ain't got no
Yeah.
appointment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
You would
So,
be there as long as the library is open. You know what I mean?
so
Yeah,
Dr. Bourne, where can we find your social handles? Where can we find you mentioned art and these different things. Where can
yeah,
we find so we can kind of track what you got going on as your sale? I'm assuming that your art's for sale, those type of things. Where can we find you?
sure. Sure. So you can see some of my artwork. I only post art on there's a website called Fine Art America, and
Okay.
it's most Western artists. And so I have a couple of my more recent pieces there. But I have a t-shirt line where I do digital art and
Okay.
sell like comedy t-shirts,
Nice.
Afrocentric stuff, silly stuff like that. And that's called borumarts.com. And
Wow.
then
Okay.
on Instagram, I'm Borum Arts on Instagram as well. I post artwork and whatever random stuff is happening in the world. So I'm not super big on social media. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't have a huge footprint, but my artwork is out there. But oil painting, I do sell my oil paintings by commission mostly, and I do sell prints as well. So yeah,
Well, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We're about to end here. Well, thank you for your time, Dr. Moore. I
Sure.
really appreciate it.